Hey everyone, it's the commish. I just want to talk about the game previews here for week 11 and start with our game of the week, Fighting Geese and Rose taking on Ryan and Deuce Bombers. It's a West Division battle. Basically, you got to think if Ryan wins this game, he's going to win the West Division. But I guess there's still two teams chasing him, Rose and Brian, with the 12th man. Um, Obviously, Ryan made the improvements this week to pick up Gary Barnage from the commish. Not going to help him this week because he's on the bye, but basically top to bottom, if you look at Ryan's team, I mean, it's pretty good. You got to look at also the fact he gets Tony Romo back this week, which he had prophesized that he would get him back in time for the playoffs. So it might work out for him. For Rose and Fighting Geese, I mean, few players on the bye this week, which definitely is going to play a factor into it. But obviously, Rose has helped herself to a 7-3 record. At the same time, though, tough loss last week to Brian Fantana's Lady Killers. Those are definitely the kind of teams, obviously, you want to beat to show that you really are a true contender. Anyways, vote on the game of the week for this one. Should be a beauty in that West Division. Great division again this year. Next up, it's Krista and Storm taking on Lucas and Green Lightning in the North Division. Tough luck for Lucas this year, losing 3 in a row here down the stretch, falling to 5-5. Pretty much playoffs aspirations are on life support. For Krista and Storm, definitely an 8-2 record helps. Bad news for Krista and Storm, though, just losing their best wide receiver for the rest of the year, and Julian Edelman, well, at least for the rest of the fantasy year. So really a must-win for Lucas in this one. If Lucas loses this one, you could probably pretty much kiss his playoff hopes goodbye. Whereas with Krista, obviously she's fighting it out with Milan there for the North Division title. Next up, we got Brian in the 12th man taking on very much inactive Mastodons, I guess. Second week in a row here for Brian to take on a couple inactive teams. Definitely helping him at this time of year right now, being a contender at 7-3. Definitely still in the running for that West Division. This should be an easy win against Mastodons, and what should help him get closer down the stretch here to try to capture that West Division title. Next up, we got Milan, the Toronto Turnarounds. 8 straight wins for Milan as he continues to really dominate this league over the last little bit. We'll take on George and the defending champion, the champion. This one should be an interesting one. I know George and the champion sacrificing a lot of his future to try to make another run at a title defense. JJ Watt coming in. For Milan and Toronto Turnarounds, everything just seems to keep falling into place for him. The latest thing is Julian Edelman's injury to Kristen Storm only makes him having Danny Amendola, making it that much stronger for him to collect points. So this should be a good one. Next up, we got a couple of teams playing for pride, I should say. We got the commish here with Stars against Sean and HaHa Clinton Dix. It's pretty crazy to know that HaHa Clinton Dix will have 5 first rounders in next year's draft. Obviously, the 5 keepers that he's going to keep, I don't see much talent that he's going to keep, but at the same time, if you get 5 keepers, that's going to be pretty good. For the commish, I was able to get some of my draft picks back, but again, at this point, both teams just playing for pride. Next up, we got an East Division battle. It's Martin and Canadian Raiders versus Steven and US 1. Both teams again, another pride game. That being said, though, obviously the commish has a league where if I notice you're tanking, I will call you out on that. Obviously, if you finish in the bottom 4, you're going to get a top 4 pick, unless, of course, you traded it. And if for some of you that may not know, the consolation playoffs is for the fifth pick in the draft. So if you win the consolation playoffs, you get the 5th pick in the draft. For those people that traded their first round pick and you end up in the consolation playoffs, myself included, if I notice that you are tanking, I will set your lineup to make sure that no tanking is involved. Just because you've traded your first pick away doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be competitive down the stretch. So you'll notice the commish. If I end up in those consolation playoffs, I will be playing it right to the end, and I expect everybody else to do that as well. Next up, a fairly intriguing matchup. We got Robert and Templars taking on Falcon Power and Justin. Justin's team, I mean, obviously it looks like he's well on his way to a South Division crown. Congrats to him. At the same time, Templars actually still has a legitimate shot at the East Division. It's good to see the East Division be competitive. I think, you know, George is going to definitely have some competition down the stretch here. And if Templars can win this game, it's him versus George next week. So he'll definitely be hoping for Milan. And, you know, if he wins this one, he might be controlling his own destiny. Next up is the Battle of the Mikes, as it's two Mike owners. Winnipeg Jets, Brian Fantana's Lady Killers. Again, this is kind of another one of them pride games. Both teams obviously, I mean, Brian Fantana's Lady Killers has kind of exceeded expectations. I think I had him not doing very well this year. For Mike and Winnipeg Jets, it's been an absolute disaster for him. Again, a lot of that was just overhyped players such as Eddie Lacy really not panning out. Obviously, Victor Cruz never played any games there for him. Still though, this is, you know, I hope this is a league where everybody, you know, you don't want to fall to another 4-6 team. You want to do the best you can, and I'm sure these two will try to beat each other this week. Next up, it's Chris and True North taking on Rick and Apples and Oranges. Obviously, Chris holds that last 8th playoff spot there. You know, he's got a couple teams breathing down his neck. Obviously, the obvious one is Lucas. The advantage Chris has though is he's taken on Apples and Oranges and Rick, which is you know, not a very good team, and then he also beat Lucas this year, which means he holds the tiebreaker. So really, Chris controls his own destiny here, and it really should start with an easy win here versus Rick. And in this week's stinker of the week, it's an inactive team, Dwayne Thunderbolt 777. Like I say, I didn't know what happened to him. It's his loss. Like I say, that's why I created these qualifying leagues. I want 20 active owners, and let me make that clear to all of you guys. I really want owners that are on here pretty much almost every day, checking their lineup or looking to make trades. You know, this is what it's all about, and I'm hoping with this becoming a money league here, hopefully everybody will put the $40 in for next year. Who knows what it's going to become, right? But, you know, with Dwayne, the way I see it, good riddance. And Brady is the GOAT. I mean, obviously, he's given up to 0-10. Can't blame him. All I can say is I feel sorry for the team that gets his team. But honestly, it disappoints me that we see these kind of teams right now on the schedule. But like I say, next year with 5 new owners coming up, I think that you know, this team or this league is going to have enormous potential. And I just want to say, the commish really thanks all of you guys, and you know, let's get rid of these teams and get everybody in here that's going to be competitive. Good luck, everybody.